Well, hello. I felt like we had a worthy subject for a road video today. We're coming into the mysterious Ocate Valley in New Mexico. Little town up here of Okate. That's a strange word. I don't know, it isn't really Spanish as far as I know, but it's not English either. Anyway, it'd be interesting to look up what that really comes from. But anyway, I started running the film a little bit early just so you could enjoy, we're coming up on the southern Rockies here. We're probably already at 7,000 feet. And it's just an interesting out-of-the-way place. It's a northern New Mexico valley, vaguely similar, in geography to some of the areas around Taos, except instead of Taos is essentially on the west side of the Sangre de Cristo, which is what we call the Southern Rockies here, and Okate is on the east side. So there's quite a bit of settlements and so forth, very old settlements that are on the east or the Great Plains side of the mountains, and it's, I would say, much less touristed, much less gentrified, much more out of the way over here because it's on the other side of the mountains from, for instance, Santa Fe. So there's kind of a trail, so to speak, that comes north from Santa Fe up through like, Taos and even up to like Tierra Maria and all that. But this is on the other side of the mountains from almost all of the population. And if you go east from here, it actually becomes even less populated, and you go out onto the high plains. So it's a little bit lesser known on the east side of the mountains here, and we're just gonna, if you'll bear with me, we're just gonna kind of run through Okate here, and we'll enjoy it. It's an irrigated community. It's on the Acequia system, which is the word for the ancient Spanish irrigation, gravity-fed irrigation systems. And that's what they did, was they came up one by one and they settled these little valleys. Naranjos is what we're going through here. That's kind of a funny name. It means oranges. You're definitely not going to grow any oranges up here. It's 20 below in the winter, so it's kind of funny. It's essentially an entirely Hispanic or Latin American community in feel, and the agriculture is on the Acequia system, which is gravity-fed irrigation technologies that came from the Arabs to Spain and then to New Mexico. But the actual plant growing conditions in the biome are kind of discontinuous with what you'd expect. There's no orange trees, there's no olive trees. This is not a Mediterranean climate up here. It's probably, in the winter, it's probably as cold as, I don't know, Minnesota or Wisconsin. So it's kind of interesting. I'm surprised the settlers up here still remembered what an orange was when they named the place. So anyway, we're coming in. You see the agriculture tends to be, there's definitely active agriculture up here, but tends to be very small farms, 5, 10, 20 acres, and they are irrigated. So you've got year-round water supply onto the pastures, once again from those, legacy Acequia systems. So we're coming in, and Okate might be the very least, I don't know, gentrified, Angloized, whatever you want to call it, of these irrigated communities. Certainly in this part of New Mexico, it has essentially no commercialization, and it's still pretty. It hasn't been overrun by too many falling down single wides, and which of course came in with the 20th century and really put a damper, honestly, on the historic appearance of this part of the state, because when the single wides came in, the labor of doing the traditional adobe homes became something that it's just economically, they didn't put up, you know, back-breaking adobe homes just the same reason you don't put one up, right? That you can, even if you're relatively low income, you can make more money in wage labor, you know, buy a house trailer with running water, bathrooms, kitchen, you know, all right there. And essentially you have to be really, really poor or really, really rich for it to make sense for you to spend your time, you know, making adobe bricks, building with adobe bricks. It's just something that's hard to justify unless your time has, you know, almost no economic value otherwise, and that's the reality of that. So I probably started running the film too early, and you're probably getting bored, but I suppose you're going to have to bear with me. Certainly good scenery, nothing to complain about. It's a nice early morning. I had to go up to Mora for a work purpose, so this is the way you get to Mora. Mora's an interesting place too. It's quite a bit bigger, not as quaint, but it's, once again, it's probably, see some traditional residences here. It's probably the biggest of the, you know, communities in the Northeast Mountains. Once again, the biggest one that isn't visibly changed, you know, by too much art galleries and stuff. You know, it's still pretty basic up here. There you go. You see there's certainly a lot of abandoned structures, but they're not all abandoned. It's kind of fun. We're going to come up here to the left, and this is one thing I wanted you to see, is there's an old adobe store right there. It's pretty picturesque. If you look to your left as we're driving, and it's really close to the road because that was like the storefront, you know, big old adobe brick store, and that was for sale a few years ago with a bunch of the land next to it. And the land is not cheap up here. I would have loved to bought it, and I could have probably stabilized it, but it was not a small purchase. This isn't where I live, you know, it's a little far from where I live. So anyway, now we're coming into the Okate hamlet, I guess you'd call it. There's a skunk crossing the road, so we got to turn for. We'll take a second. We won't turn. We'll take a second. We'll go up and see the old church, and then we'll cut the video. You see these another old commercial type adobe structure. And if you keep going this way, there's a dirt road that allows you to kind of shortcut, at least in the summer, up to Angel Fire and stuff. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool ride. So here we go. Boy, the light's hitting that just right. It's as classic as it gets right there. You're not going to beat it. Look at that.